Hello and welcome to the Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena.
And this is where we talk about the good, the bad, and all the shift in between.
We'll just talk mad shift.
Let's get into it. And on this week's episode, whose to-do list is this? And we'll get into that topic a little bit later. But first, let's do these skin deep cards. You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
What do you think are my top 3 priorities right now?
Top 3 priorities. Well, I think your top 3 priorities are, I think your top 3 priorities are your physical health.
Okay.
Okay. Because I think that's one thing that you've been kind of looking at your own like physical well-being and then your mental well-being.
Yeah.
And then I think your family.
I think you did pretty good with that.
Okay.
Although I don't know if those would be in the right order, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, definitely.
Top 3.
Top 3. Those are the top 3.
Those can be spiced in any order.
Yeah. I like it. Okay.
Okay. Your question is, when was the last time you felt vulnerable with me?
The last time I felt vulnerable with you? Ooh, I would say when I'm giving you my honest opinion.
I know, but when was that?
Probably like a month ago when we all got together and, we just had like a day at Serenity Cove and we were just going into it, and it's like, you're asking me to be completely honest, asking me to give you advice, asking me to do, and it was like, and I feel a sense of vulnerability. I think maybe because, do I worry about what you're going to say or how you're going to feel, or if you're going to think that I'm, giving you the wrong advice or whatever. I think there's that. It's like, okay, I'm stepping into like this open spot.
Really?
And being able to say, this is what I think. And it's like, that felt vulnerable.
That is surprising to me because I think that I'm worried about being vulnerable with you. Right. And like, is this too much? Am I like emotionally dumping on her? And so to hear you say that you're being vulnerable by opening and basically being afraid to give the right or wrong advice. Is that what you're saying? That's what I'm hearing?
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe like the way you said it, afraid to give the wrong advice, I think that, that's probably more it.
But I think you don't really give advice in the way that's like, you need to do this. You don't do that.
I don't do that. But I think in that moment, you were asking me to do that. And that's different from what I'm normally comfortable doing.
Okay.
I'm normally comfortable asking questions. So you come up with your own thing rather than just saying, this is what I think you should do.
But why is that different than like, say, with a client and then me? Do you feel vulnerable with clients also? Or did you in the beginning, but then it became...
No. It's not the same. No. With clients, so I do the same thing. I ask more questions rather than say, you need to do this. So I can't even say that I've...
But it doesn't put you in a vulnerable place.
No.
But just specifically with me.
Well, because I have an investment in you as my brother, my family. There's a lot more entangled there.
Yeah.
So I would say that's where the vulnerability
comes
in.
I learned something here. I like that. Yeah.
You thought it was be like, well, when we went on that hike and I got scared. Nope, that's not it.
Well, it could be possible. Well, let's get into this clip, this Instagram reel.
Yeah.
Posted by Theo Vaughn. Let's just play it.
I don't know if I'm living sometimes or if I'm doing a to-do list. And then I don't know whose to-do list it is sometimes. I don't know if it's my own things that I want to be doing. Is it things that I feel like people want me to be doing? Like, whose expectations am I living up to? I don't...
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, it hit me hard. I love Theo. I love a lot of the things that he posts. And that one just made me kind of stop in my tracks and go, yeah, I bet a lot of us feel that way.
Yeah.
Because the journey to self-awareness and healing really does let you come into contact with your authenticity.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes where you have to go, wait a minute, am I doing what I want? What do I want?
Yeah.
What
Who
is
am I
that?
doing this for?
Who am I doing this for?
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, that like, if like say 15 years ago, or even 5 years ago, if I were to say to you, are you living authentically? It'd be like, what does that even mean? You know?
Yeah. Well, 5 years ago specifically, I had, I felt like with work, and my family, it felt all pretty good, but
Yeah.
I didn't know why I was like miserable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I had some questions, but
And is there a tie there to, I don't know why I'm miserable. Am I living authentically to me? What does authentically to you mean? Is kind of like what he's saying. Am I living, or am I doing a to-do list? And is it my to-do list?
yeah,
Right? Because growing up, we kind of get a list of things that we should be, should do, what we should wear, how we should act. And we're like, okay, we're ticking those boxes. Like, I'm doing all those things.
until like I eventually got tired of doing other people's lists.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why am I doing this? Because
Did you even know it was somebody else's list?
No, but I was so codependent, and just trying to people please, and that was my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
mean,
I wasn't aware of it.
I don't think a lot of people are. And I think this whole living authentically is it's a very hot topic right now. It's like, it's out there for everyone. Like, are you living authentically? But if you break it down and you don't really understand, like, what does that actually mean? Right? It's not a lot of people pleasing. It's probably coming into some awareness on what you actually want.
Yeah.
Outside of our own programming, maybe from growing up, like, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, you should get this type of education, go to this school. You should have 2.5 children and get married. You should love a certain type of person. And it's like, okay, well, thank you for my to-do list, quote unquote. And now I'm doing all those things. Why am I miserable? Is it because are those things actually things you wanted to do? Is that how you want to be? Where you wanted to go to school, or what job
a lot of times,
you wanted
if you were if you wanted to please your parents, then yeah, if that was your goal, was to please your parents, you wanted it because it was going to do that.
So was that their to-do list, or was it yours?
Exactly. I think that's where we're making that delineation here, just trying to get people to maybe
just to
step
stop
back a
and
little
think.
bit.
Yeah, stop and think. If you are outwardly successful and inwardly miserable, perhaps you are not living your most authentic life, or something that actually aligns with what you want.
Yeah. You don't even know that you could have that.
No. And what does it look like to have that in practice? That's the thing. It's like a lot of people, you're going to butt up against your fears, right? Because to say no to something, when people are used to you saying yes, that people pleasing thing is very scary.
The boundaries where it comes up.
Or be able to be like, oh, does this mean that they're going to think I don't care about them, or that I don't value them? And it's like, what about valuing yourself and what makes you happy?
I think the dance there, though, is being able to in a healthy way communicate those feelings of like setting boundaries, because I wasn't so good at that. I was very defensive and, coming across brash, I would say.
Yeah.
Whenever I get defensive. So
well, then it just comes across as anger.
Yeah.
And really, do you even know why you're angry? Do you know that this isn't something I want to do? This isn't something that pleases me. This isn't the life I want to live, the job I want to have. Now, what happens to your outward life? Probably becomes very stressful. There's a lot of anger, all of that going on. And so you're kind of just looking around like, I did all the things.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
I did all the things. Why am I not happy? So it's just this evolution through your consciousness and your level of awareness on who you are and how you want to show up in the world. And it can be scary to start stepping outside of that if it's something that's important to you.
Yeah, well, I think, my family members started to make me aware that they weren't happy with the way I was. And that's when it became, painfully obvious that I needed to make a change.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't until I kind of was reflecting and talking with them and seeing, it was like, oh, well, I guess I need to look at some things here. And why am I not happy? And so I think, going into like that, trying to look into what that was where it all kind of started. So
how do you think it's evolved over time? like living authentically for you?
Well, dealing with a lot of the trauma has kind of let that stuff, slowly just been working through those things. But I think living authentically is a different thing. It's like, now, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the ways that I was living was to please a lot of other people and not just live for me.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's kind of like, oh man, I don't like to do this anymore. I do like to do this still, but how do I mesh these two together?
Yeah.
And just trying to find a way to live that's, because I think it becomes isolating when you're trying to find who this new person is,
Mm-hmm.
Living authentically. And sometimes you're afraid to dress a certain way. And, but now I find myself, the way that I've evolved is started to take care of myself,
Yeah.
and love myself
Yeah.
in an authentic way.
It makes me think about how you like stopped, even using alcohol,
Yeah.
right? You were not an alcoholic per se, but when you got to a place where you're like, actually, I can feel myself. I'm working through, the traumas that I've had to, go through in life. And there's a level of self-awareness there that I no longer want to drink alcohol,
Yeah.
right? But now you have friends that you've always hung out with that do. And it's kind of like, well, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, I still hang out with people
Yeah.
who drink. My wife still drinks. I'm like, it's not, for me, it's not because of sobriety. It was just my relationship with alcohol, but it was a conscious choice.
And that is that more authentic?
Yeah, it's
you.
authentic to me. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's like looking at that is a way that you had to step into a version of your authenticity was to say no to something
Yeah.
that no longer aligned for you.
Yeah, I realized I had to make something taste so good in order for me to, ingest it.
Yeah.
And thinking about beers, when I remember my first experience with, stealing a beer away at one of the parties at an uncle's house. And, me, I think it was Eddie Boy and Miriam cracked open like a Miller Lite or something and drank it. It was tasted disgusting. And I was like, I don't know why these guys are all drinking this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, flash to today, it doesn't taste much different, but, we have an acquired taste to reach an acquired feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just realized I'd much rather drink other things,
Yeah.
So it and it messed with my stomach and all the, digestive system, and had acid reflux. So that was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. And being able to be in your same group.
Yeah.
And instead of just falling in line with whatever everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
you have to say no, this isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
That is a version of having to switch into a level of authenticity for yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that is a challenge. Yeah. Because when I go now, I've learned to say, I'm not drinking today.
Yeah.
It makes it easier than I stopped drinking. I haven't drank, or explaining my relationship with alcohol was just, I'm not drinking today.
Yeah.
And it seems to go easier. But I'm okay with it. Living authentically, that way
Yeah.
is getting easier and easier.
I think that's one of like the more obvious things of being able to, come into a level of awareness of what you want, and then being able to say no or yes consciously, to say, no, I don't want it. And that's the end of it. But there's other small ways, like we talk about, like with people pleasing, right? And setting boundaries.
Yeah.
And especially, for women. I mean, I think that women have been praised for being very, self, giving, just constantly giving, constantly doing something for other people. And there was something I heard recently about, how we're praised, not just women, but men. Oh, they'll give you the shirt off their back. You'd love them. They are so amazing. They'll do this for you. They'll do that for you. And that even becomes part of your identity, that I do this. I take care of everyone. I give everything that I have. And then I'm praised for that. I'm known as a wonderful person for that.
That becomes our worth.
Yes. And so, but is that actually being authentic? Right? It's good to be a good, loving person, of course, but to your own detriment, that's actually out of alignment with who you are or how you want to be in that moment. And that can be very scary to start saying no, to start saying, I can't, I'm not available for that. But that's how you take care of yourself. But sometimes we relate taking care of ourselves as not taking care of someone else, or that we're going to be viewed a certain way. And so we just do it.
Yeah.
And part of that, you're doing it with resentment, and if you're doing it with resentment, don't do it. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very scary place for people to move into, is to be able to say no when you mean no. and be able to move through those spaces, because actually that's how you teach people how to treat you, right? You keep saying yes, you keep doing those things when you don't want to, you're just going to get more of that.
Yeah.
So just being able to show up as you are, to say what you're available for, say no to the things that you don't want to do, say yes to the things you do want to do. What are the things you do want to do? What are the things that you prefer to do? And how often do you step into that and be able to speak up for yourself?
Yeah.
You know, those are the things I think when we talk about living authentically that many of us don't do, or we don't realize that, you know, we're sometimes checking off other people's to-do lists for us.
When did you notice, or what was your key thing that you knew you weren't living authentically?
Well, I would say maybe just going to certain gatherings, you know, where I was like, I didn't want to be there. Then now I don't do it. Honestly, if there's something that's going on and I don't want to be, there's any part of me that doesn't want to be there, I just don't go because I'm not available for that. If it's not something that brings me joy, that I'm not going to bring joy being there, then I don't really want to do it. Or for me, also, it was drinking. You know, I realized like alcohol didn't make me feel more like myself. It actually made me feel less like myself. And so going out, I don't do it. And there is this kind of feeling of like, I'm going to be kind of left out.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be the person that's like, oh, she's not doing this or that. And I could be self-conscious about that, or I could be like, this is who I am. If you don't want to invite me back, that's cool too. We both win.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that's part of it. Or even dressing a certain way. Like I realize I don't need to just dress to impress everyone else. I need to be in something that I feel comfortable in, or that I enjoy wearing, or, you know, anything like that. Or if I do my hair a certain way.
Yeah.
Right. I recently went back to my dark roots.
Yeah. It's hard to get used to, but yeah.
If you didn't know me in the 90s, you don't know this is actually my hair color. But I was like, why am I dyeing my hair? You know, it's like, I think I actually prefer it to be what it naturally is. But that was a kind of a vulnerable place. Like, are people going to think I'm this, or they're going to think this, or they're not going to think I look as good? Or, and then I thought, who cares? This is who I am. This is how I want to show up. Maybe I don't feel like putting makeup on right now. Maybe I just want to go in these comfy shoes. That's okay too. And it makes me happier to be that way, you know? And I think that it's more important for me as an individual to feel good about what I'm doing, or where I am, or, you know, how I'm showing up, than to make everyone else comfortable around me, right? It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do things for people or show up for them in a loving way. In fact, if I'm showing up, you know that I want to be there.
Yeah.
If we're having a conversation, you know that I want to have that conversation because I'm not going to fake it. You know, I think, I don't know if it's getting older, like I'm 52. I don't have time to fake it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't.
Only so much time.
I just give less, you know what's about things like that.
Yeah.
It's just, this is who I am. This is how it's going to be. And you take me or leave me. And if you leave me, that's cool.
But, you know, some of the judgment that I, even listening to it is, you know, before I tried to step into the awareness, was like thinking, well, it's just like a feel free, you know, not really giving a crap and letting everything pass over you. But it's not really that.
It's not that.
It's not that. It's more about knowing what I want and what I don't want. It's like what somebody told me, grumpy old man. It was like, no, we don't get grumpy when we're old. We just figure out what we don't like anymore, and we're less willing to kind of get pushed into something that we don't want to do.
Or if you're a grumpy old man, you probably have been living somebody else's to-do list your whole life, and now you're just pissed.
And now you're just pissed. Well, you know, part of the thing was I was listening to you talk, and I was thinking about Aiden specifically saying that I wasn't really authentic when I was at home. Or when I was outside of the home. So like in family gatherings with you guys, I was over giving and doing everything for everybody. But at home, I was angry and just very controlling. So there was an inauthenticity there. But I think it was because I was just giving so much. And then when I get home, I'm just beating myself up.
You have nothing left.
Yeah, I got nothing left for them either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's a sign of like that you're out of alignment.
Oh, yeah, it was a big one. It was a big sign for me. It was like, that's when I started to take care of myself.
Yeah, how do you think it changes? How do you think living in your truth changes your life, changes everything.
I mean, just a perspective shift, gives a calming, that fear of missing out kind of goes away.
I think there's a sense of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of freedom of just being comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah.
And, just knowing that when you say something to someone and you are being honest and you're being honest with yourself and honest with them, that thinking, just constantly trying to figure out what they're going to think about it or what other people are going to think about it is really, it's none of your business. Like, it's your job to show up and be, truthful and to be present. But if you're giving something to someone that you think they want, but that's not what you want, then what's the point? That's not an honest interaction. It's not an honest relationship. So I think that there's this fine line, like in between, that like people hearing this and thinking, oh, you just don't give a crap about anybody else. You're just living your life just for you to be happy. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
that's my question, because what's the difference there?
The difference is you being able to be in alignment with what you want and really knowing what you want, really knowing like, what is the job I want to be doing? What is the work I want to be doing? How do I want to be spending my time? What if you were able to just have the freedom to do that and you still love people and you probably spend time with people that you enjoy spending time with. And guess what? If you enjoy being there, they're going to probably enjoy your company
be happier
more.
People.
Yeah. You'd be happy. It'd be a happier
Logical
interaction.
Explanation.
And when you get home, you're probably just as happy, right? Because you didn't just pour out everything and have to put on a face.
Yeah. Pretend to be this.
And fake it.
For 12 hours and then come home.
Yeah. Imagine if everybody just showed up authentically, but wholeheartedly, that you care about other people. You care about what you're doing. You're doing a job you love. You're spending your time the way that you like to spend it. And how would that change the interactions that you're having on a day-to-day basis? I think that does. It changes everything. I would say maybe the relationships that I've lost or that I no longer, am in contact with on a regular basis, maybe there was something out of alignment there in the first place. But now it's made room for other people to come in or other interactions or other experiences to come in that I enjoy, that they enjoy. So it's made space for other things to come into my life that actually are more aligned, to be doing work that I enjoy or to be spending time with people I enjoy, to be able to take care of myself in a way that leaves me healthy. I think that is really important. I think that's a benefit of trying to live an authentic life, you know? And I think that's something that we don't always understand. Like we were talking about, 5-10 years ago, if somebody said, are you living authentically? It's like, well, yeah. Aren't I? Well, it's like, are you? Have you ever asked yourself what you actually want? What you actually want to be doing? How you want to be living? And being able to get enough, stillness in your day to be able to ask yourself those questions and hear the answer. That's not an easy thing to do. But if anyone who's listening to this just thought, okay, am I? What are the questions, that I need to ask myself to see if that's what I'm doing? So let's talk about like the questions.
Okay.
Here we go. Let's address the barriers. Okay. What holds people back from living authentically? What do you think the barriers are?
Just off the top, I just think judgment of friends and family.
Fear of judgment, need for validation.
Yeah.
Societal expectations.
Yeah.
Those are the things that holds us back.
Okay.
And it's that, like the internal conflict of wanting to fit in versus wanting to be true to yourself. Just like we were talking about being in different groups. And also, one thing we haven't talked about is how social media affects and the external pressures that can lead us to like filter ourselves and to be a certain way, or things that we're trying to live up to, which what you see on social media is rarely like the truth of someone's whole life, right? But we start to create these expectations and trying to live up to that. So there's filters. A to-do list. That's like, so whose to-do list is even that? Okay, so here are the questions. Am I showing up as my true self in my daily life? Ask yourself that question. Are you showing up as your true self in your daily life? How often do I filter my thoughts to meet others' expectations? What parts of me feel most alive?
And are you doing those things?
Are you doing those things? So those are the things that people need to ask themselves if they're able to show up authentically in their life.
Yeah, I mean, going to the groups with like the transcendence that we went to, they talked about being able to, feel comfortable and authentic in a room like that where people are talking about consciousness and all that. And I was uncomfortable in that room. But I think being authentic even outside of that room, like, with friends and family, ways that I find myself doing that is just being, that like we talked about, like the deeper conversations and the way that I conversate now. I think that's kind of more authentically who I am. And that's how I'm bringing that.
Well, that's where it goes back to are you filtering your own thoughts to meet someone else's expectations? So if you're in a conversation and instead of truly being present and listening, you're constantly thinking, what is the answer that they want me to give? Or what's the answer I can give so that I can be seen in a certain light? Then is that really, being truthful with yourself?
Or listening.
You're not listening. Yeah. You're actually just processing and trying to figure out how to manipulate the conversation.
You're trying to be the fixer, not the listener, like last week. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that those are great questions to ask. I think there was also a quote by Dr. Gabor Mate about, there's two pains that you're going to have in your life, and pain is unavoidable in your life. And you can either have the pain of being yourself or the pain of not being yourself. That's, you need to choose which one, right? And I'd much rather have the pain of being myself than of having to alter who I am to make everybody else happy. That's an inward struggle. That's just, I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for that.
Well, I got all kinds of time because I'm trying to fix that.
Well, and we always like to give some tips, some steps for people to, start to live authentically. And one of them is to tune in. And that is just really reflecting on what makes you feel most like yourself. I always like to think about like using the body as kind of the antenna, right? And as the barometer of like, yes, this feels great. This is actually something I want to be doing, or I feel really lit up, like just happy, joyful when I'm in this group of people or when I'm having these types of conversations. Those are the things to really tune into, notice, let your body tell you if this is something that you enjoy or that you feel aligned with, whether it's work, a relationship, anything, is just really start to listen to your body. If your
body,
what
do you feel lost in sometimes?
Oh, yeah. What you could just lose time in and you're happy to do, or that you leave that interaction and you feel uplifted as opposed to completely like vacuumed out, right? That I feel like is a big sign that probably you're in a situation that is not aligned for you, or you don't feel like you can be authentic, is really noticing what your energy level is afterward. The other one is just letting go. It's that releasing the need for validation from others. So letting go of the need to be validated, letting go of the need to control how people see you, especially when it's not aligned with who you are and what makes you happy.
Yeah, that comes down to like self-conviction, like just knowing who you are at the core.
And, letting go is, I'm not saying it's easy.
No.
Right? You can do it with like small things, right? Little steps outward, maybe dressing the way that you want to dress, or maybe being honest with your conversation.
Yeah, I started wearing like a handbag, you know what I mean? Like a
You
merce.
did.
Yeah.
You do have a merce now. I feel like that's authentic to you.
It is. You know what? I don't even care. You know what I mean? I am adopting. I was like, it's so practical, man. This is, everybody says you forget everything, or you got, your pants are sagging because I got bazillion things in my pockets. Old guys wear cargo shorts because they ain't got a merce.
I feel like the merce is the ultimate expression of authenticity.
For me, it is. You know what I mean? I'm just rocking.
Unless you're getting one just because everybody else has one, but you don't really like it. You don't have any things in there that you really need. But if you're like, you know what? It actually is much easier for me to have these things readily available and accessible.
It is a thing because I have to ask myself, is this appropriate time to wear this thing? You know what I mean? But I just have to rock it like as if it's a wallet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I do. So
Would you say that was a small shift or a big shift?
I think that was pretty big. For me, that internally was a big hurdle. So it still is. It's a battle every day. You know what I mean? I'm sure still people haven't seen me with it.
Yeah.
Because it's only been about a month. But yeah, it was another just kind of living authentically. It was like, I'm going to do what's me. This makes me happy. It brings me joy.
And the tip for that is that practicing self-compassion and affirmations to boost your self-worth. So with your immersed, you're like, you know what? It's okay that you feel embarrassed that you're carrying this because this is practical for you, and now you have easy access to the things that you need. That's
it's got
okay.
a carabiner on it. It's made by Carhartt. You know what I mean? It's. I think it's legit.
And the affirmations are, you are a strong man. You can still carry this.
I am safe masculine.
You are a safe masculine.
The image I'm trying to project.
That's that's just expressing yourself in a way that feels genuine to you.
It is.
Right? Mm-hmm. It made your life easier.
Yeah, I wear like crystals now and stuff like that. And you were like, what are you doing? And
oh my gosh, I
wear bracelets. People were like, wow.
You do. You wear bracelets now. Mm-hmm. Right? And they're like, why are you wearing that obsidian? Why are you wearing that obsidian on your wrist?
1992 Noel is not 2004, 24 Noel.
So sometimes, the example that we can give for people to just start stepping, slowly into this world of authenticity of themselves is, maybe just some wardrobe choices. Maybe you do wear the cargo pants because you're not ready for the MERS yet. I don't know. And then maybe just speaking your truth in a conversation. Like, what would you, if people's like, oh, what have you been doing lately? It's like, I remember having a conversation with friends and we get together and be like, so what have you been up to? And it's like, oh, my daughter's doing this, or my son's doing this. And it's like just this, like the letter that talks about how everything is great and all this. And, I remember one day and I was just like, it's been hard. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing. And actually this, and I was like, this is me. Like, I'm in a group of friends. Here's my opportunity to get some actual support from people I love. But how am I going to get it if I'm not honest?
You didn't want to give them the Christmas card report?
I didn't want to give them the Christmas card
report.
So
how did they receive that?
They were like, whoa, really? Wow. Like, tell us about, and I thought, wow, that went well. Oh. I was just like, this is who I am. This is what's going on.
That may have been your first step out of authenticity. Right
it was into authenticity. It was like just saying, like, you know what? It's not great right now. Like, I'm struggling, but I'm making it through. And I actually ended up getting help or getting some, words of encouragement that I needed. But had I just played the Christmas card story, I'd have just sat there like,
I'm fine.
Everything's fine.
Feelings I've not expressed.
I'm going to go home now. Drink a bottle of wine. So no, I think it's just, taking small steps like that. I mean, big ones are career decisions. If you know that you are in a job that you hate, if you dread anything, I feel like dread is one of the big things that tell you you're not living authentically. And if you didn't come here to dread anything. So if you're in that position of like, damn, I got to get up and go to work. I can't stand these people. I can't stand this environment. You are not in alignment. You are not living authentically. And I know that's a hard one to step out of, but maybe you start thinking about what does feel like is authentic to you. What if you start thinking about what would make you happy to do?
A lot of people, start out a career and go to school for whatever, being a nurse or being a doctor, but then they shift. So you don't have to do that forever, I think,
No.
We have family members who, stepped into law, in their 50s.
Yeah.
And successful careers right now. So I think you can change whatever you want to do at any time.
Yeah. I would say when I left flight nursing, that was scary. And I thought,
so you are a perfect example.
What is everybody going to think? People told me I was crazy. What about your 401k? And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that is scary, but I know that something else is more authentic to me that lights me up. That when you ask me about this other thing, which is, this more holistic healing and really going into self-awareness, that they'd ask me that and it was like, boom, a light bulb would go off around my head and it was like, da, 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 and I could just speak so clearly about it. You asked me about when I was a flight nurse, like, oh, tell me about this and, this must be a great job. And I'm like, it's okay. It's good. And I thought, oh my gosh, as soon as I heard that come out of my mouth, I thought, Lena, it's time to switch. It's time to move out of the way and let somebody be here who is so excited and lights up when they talk about it, you know? And so that was the moment for me that I thought, yeah, it's time to make a change. And it wasn't easy, but it was totally worth it. It was totally worth it. There's just such a freedom in living the way that you want to live and being who you want to be unapologetically, you know, show up for your life. Yep.
All right, that's been another episode of Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena. Let us know what your questions are, and we'd love to use them on a future episode. Or check us out on Insta at Let That Shift Go, or visit our website, serenitycovetemecula.com.